Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to this morning's meeting. First of all, I have some housekeeping to read out, if I may. Members and visitors, some housekeeping before we start the main business for today. Please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to silent. I'll do the same. Please set your microphones to mute during the meeting. This is to ensure that we don't get any feedback that will affect our ability to hear proceedings. When you wish to speak, please click on the raised hand icon found by clicking on participants and clicking on the blue raised hand icon at the bottom of the right screen. Your raised hand icon will only be lowered when I have invited you to speak and you have spoken. Please unmute your microphone when I invite you to speak and mute it again when you have finished speaking. Please note that this meeting will be live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel today. Please be mindful that therefore the members of the public following the meeting via the live stream will be able to see each of us on screen individually. Please announce yourself by name when speaking, and if you want to refer to anything in the officer report, you can. Please first clearly state the relevant page number and paragraph number. So there we go, really. So have we started live streaming yet, Sonia?
Yes, we're ready to start, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, so welcome to Rochford District Council's remote meeting of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee, and welcome to anyone watching this via live stream. I now have some briefing notes. Good morning, my name is Councillor Williams. I am the Chairman of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee. The other members, I will ask them now to introduce themselves. So we have Lisa Newport, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Councillor Lisa Newport.
Thank you. And Councillor Jim Gooding.
I'm Councillor Jim Gooding for Roach South Ward.
Okay, thank you very much. And also the committee's legal advisor is Mr. Chris Ewing. If you would like to introduce yourself, please, Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chris Owen, Solicitor at Rochford District Council.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of the hearing today is to consider an application for the variation of an existing premises licence made by Fine Build Homes Limited relating to the premises known as the Wacker, 23 High Street, Great Wakering. Please could the Council's licensing officer introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Caris Brooke. I'm the licensing officer for Rochford District Council.
Thank you. And do you have any witnesses you wish to call?
No.
No, thank you. Please could the applicant or their representative introduce themselves?
I'm mute.
Hi.
Mute. Yeah, hi. So I'm Tyler. This is Jodie. We're the two owners of the Wacker and Fine Build Homes.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any witnesses that you wish to call?
No.
Thank you very much. Please could the interested parties or their representatives, I've done that one. Sorry. Please could the interested parties or their representatives introduce themselves. So you're on mute. Still on mute. If that's Tracy Strike. Are you having trouble there?
Sorry, is that better?
That's it, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. We're just not very computer literate.
That's okay.
So, sorry, I'm Tracy Strike and Dave West.
I'm David Westgarth. Yeah.
So we live next door to the Wacker at number 17 High Street.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any witnesses that you'd like to call?
No, we don't.
No.
Thank you. Have all the parties received the agenda and reports for today's hearing?
Yes, we have.
Thank you. The committee will follow the procedure set out in the procedural note on item 3 of the agenda. Please could all parties be reminded that each have 15 minutes to present their case and will be given 2 minutes at the end of the hearing to make a closing statement. These time limits may only be extended with the permission of the subcommittee. Please could Ms. Brooks summarise the application?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this report introduces an application for the variation of an existing premises licence The application was submitted to the licensing authority by the premises licence holders, Fine Build Homes Ltd, and relates to the premises known as the Wacker 23 High Street, Great Wraycoin. The application for the following licensable activities are to include the use of the outbuilding between 12 and 11 in the beer garden for the existing premises to be used for the supply and retail supply of alcohol and live music at the weekends. The application is also to also remove condition 8, which states that the entertainment to be provided inside only. The application has been assessed by Essex Police, and they have confirmed that they have no representations. The application has been assessed by the Council's Environmental Health Service, and they have agreed conditions with the applicant for the committee to consider should the application to vary the licence be granted. All of these are included in Appendix C. There have been one representation received from a local resident within the consultation period. The representation raised concerns in relation to the following licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance. Appendix D consists of a copy of this valid representation. It is proposed that the committee resolves the application with one of the following options: to grant the application to vary the existing licence subject to such conditions as are consistent with the operating schedule, modified to such extent as members consider necessary, or for the promotion of the licensing objectives and any mandatory condition that must be included, or to reject the application, or subject to paragraphs 11 to 13 of the Licensing Act 2003 Hearings Regulation 2005 to adjourn the hearing to a specified date or arrange for a hearing to be held on specified additional dates where members consider this to be necessary for their consideration or any representations on notice made by a party.
Okay, that's it, is it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Brooke? Any clarification needed? Okay, if any other parties have any questions for clarification at all? No, thank you. Please could the applicant present their submissions? Thank you.
Right, okay. So I suppose we wanted to start by just giving a bit of history of the pub and what we've done with it and what we intend to do with it. So we bought the pub in 2019 when it was a boarded up pub. It'd been failing for a number of years before that, with several different landlords trying to do stuff to the pub to make it work, none of which worked, and it finally got boarded up and sold to us. At the time, we had the opportunity of developing the pub and turn it into flats or housing or sort of some type of residential development, but was encouraged by the council to try to keep the pub as it was because it was deemed an asset to the village. So we decided to do that, and we've invested all our money into it. We've both remortgaged our own homes to pay for the refurb of the pub and bring it up to where it is today. And we believe it's now a big asset to the village. I think most people in the village will agree with that. We're very responsible owners. We've obviously going through COVID. We've had quite a difficult time. We were actually mentioned by the Rochford Council and put on their website for how well we've done it as an example to all other pubs as to our COVID guidelines and how well we've done. We've kind of tried to turn the pub into more of a food place with more families, and we feel we're kind of doing that quite successfully at the moment, but it's got to be financially viable, so we've got to keep improving the pub to make it work. We've got a copy of the letter that obviously Tracy sent in, and we'd just like to address each point as we go, if we could, quite briefly. So I think the first point she brought up, or they brought up, was the fact that their property is a listed building. I don't think that has much bearing on us because obviously we're not a listed building. Our pub was been here before they moved into the house and always has been a pub, and hopefully always will be a pub. So we don't really see much relevance to their building being listed. Point two is the loss of enjoyment of their outside space. Obviously, again, going through COVID, we had to utilise our outside area. That was the only place we could have people. So naturally, it was going to be busier outside, and we had to put extra tables in. And the pub was empty, the garden wasn't. So that's always going to happen. We continue to close on a Monday and Tuesday. All other pubs in the village are open 7 days a week, but we close Mondays and Tuesdays. We feel that that gives our neighbours a couple of days where the pub isn't open. It also gives our staff a couple of days where we're not open, and it just gives everyone a bit of a break really from the pub. Closing times, our licence allows us to be open till 1 o'clock at the weekend and 11 o'clock every other day. We've taken the decision to close earlier than that because, again, as I said, we're trying to be more of a restaurant family place, not a late night drinking venue. So the weekends we close at 11 o'clock. On a Sunday, we close at 9 o'clock, and during the week, we close at 10 o'clock latest. The play area that we've got at the back, to be honest, the pub has always had a play area in the garden. In actual fact, the play area used to take up probably about 60% of the garden, whereas now our much smaller play area probably only takes up about 10% of the garden. So it's quite a lot smaller. We did, when we bought the pub, again, we feel we're quite responsible. We put up new fencing, which is actually acoustic fencing. It's probably about 3 times the price of normal fencing, but it does help slightly with the acoustics for all our neighbours. I feel that kind of goes above what most people would try to do. I know the neighbours, Tracy and David, actually removed a lot of the foliage after we put the fence up, which probably didn't help because that was a natural barrier before, but that's now gone, some of that. The outside bar that we've put up actually moves tables away from their fences. Where we used to have 2 tables up against the fence, it's now pushed the tables probably about 7 or 8 metres away from the fence. And the bar itself has actually been built with acoustic panelling and soundproofing, so should help. Point number 3, they've said about having piping music playing. I mean, I haven't got a lot to say on that, we simply don't. We've got small speakers outside that play incidental background music. Again, we're more of a restaurant place. We're not a nightclub. We try to keep the music as background music only. Number 4, again, we're not, I think it refers to the listed building, the fact that there's strict rules on listed buildings. I accept that, but that's obviously for their own house, not for us. There are improvements you can do to a listed building without the need for planning, such as secondary glazing or soundproofing, but that's something obviously they need to consider. It's not something we need to consider. Point 5, they've put lack of control, which we find quite hard to take, to be fair, because we have actually got security in place now, supplied by Stanbridge Security. The reason we got the security was for they do COVID policing within the building. They maintain volumes and if anyone's noisy, they will speak to them. They control numbers. And obviously the idea is they nip any trouble before it actually becomes trouble. We've had one incident in, I think it was either the first week or the second week we opened since COVID, back on the 12th of April. It was actually off of the premises. However, we know that it was 2 people that had been drinking in the pub, so we still know it's partly our responsibility. It was an isolated incident, 2 individuals, and we actually took one of the individuals in, looked after them and called the emergency services ourselves, and everything was fine. Since then, the following weekend, we had our 2 doormen in place, and since then we've had absolutely no problems at all. The doormen are very good. They're not hard, aggressive guys. They actually get on with everyone quite well. And since then, that we haven't had any problems at all, and we can't see why we ever would have now. We're the only pub that has got security. You can ask why we've got it, but we just feel that it just controls everything and keeps it well organised.
I think on that part as well, with the security, we want to make sure that our pub distracts the sort of troublemakers or that type of people. We want nicer people in the pub. And as we say, we want it to be more of a family-orientated place. So I think it's not because we've had trouble, it's more to prevent the trouble and to create a nicer environment. That's what it is, really.
And then point number 6 was, I think it's condition 8, about live music outside. We don't intend to have live music outside every weekend. Our live music is only ever a guy on a guitar basically playing acoustic background music. I think we all know in England the times that this can happen is quite rare. We've had one incident where it was a really nice Sunday, for example, and the guitarist had to actually play inside the pub to an empty pub when everyone was sat in the garden. It just seems a shame that on them rare occasions that we can't have a guy playing his guitar to a garden of people having their roast dinners, for example. It's not something that we're going to have live bands, rock and roll bands playing music at the weekends. It's literally a background acoustic guitarist playing. So we don't feel that I think that condition just shouldn't be on there, because it's not something we're going to push.
Plus, all the other pubs in the village seem to be able to have live music outside, and we're the only ones that can't. It's it just seems a bit unfair.
And then with regard, I mean, just as a bit of a closing summary, I suppose the pub is now busier than it ever has been. We do understand that, and we see that their point. But obviously, as a pub, it has to be busy for it to be financially viable. If it isn't busy, to be fair, it's worth more money as a development. We're doing everything we can to keep it and get it going, but we can't have our hands tied behind our back, really. The addition of the bar outside is not going to bring any more noise. It's not there to encourage more people, although it may do, but obviously, in all fairness, that's a good thing for us. The idea of the bar is to alleviate the pressure on the inside bar and have people outside as opposed to inside. For example, I think last week we had a funeral here. It was very busy, and we had it about 5 deep at the bar, and it was just too busy. We wasn't comfortable with it. Although we understand the COVID restrictions have been lifted, we're quite keen to keep a lot of our things in place.
Obviously, because of the isolation rules, we've had staff that have got COVID. So we want to try and limit that as much as possible. So with the addition of the outside bar, it obviously means that we can keep a lot of people outside. So fresh air and all that sort of thing. And it stops all the queuing inside it. But it also because it's more of a restaurant pub, it also makes it nice for the customers that are in here, that they've not got loads of people coming in here and queuing up at the bar. So there's quite a few reasons for doing it.
It's not just to bring in people. It's the same amount of people. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a capacity that we have to stick to. The bar simply means that people can go to the outside bar to get a drink rather than walk through the restaurant and get one inside, which we think spreads the numbers out and obviously gives us more space. We have obviously spoke to licensing and environmental health on this, who have come down on a number of occasions. We feel we've got a very good relationship with them, and we've made some compromises already that both licensing and environmental health think are very fair compromises and are happy with it and have agreed it with us. Other than the one complaint that we've obviously had, we've had no other complaints, and I know environmental health have said that it's very rare for a pub of our size to not have any complaints in the nearly 2 years that we've been open. I know obviously COVID, we've been shut, but we haven't had any complaints from any neighbours other than this one incident now. Again, the pub's got to be financially viable, and we're just trying to do everything we can. We like to think, I mean, I know Dave and Tracy have got our personal mobile numbers. They know that if they need us, they can call us. We've got a good relationship with the other neighbours, all of which frequent the pub and do use the pub when they want to. That's about it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I know Dave, obviously Dave's a regular at our pub, comes in every Thursday. So I know he enjoys the pub. Haven't seen Tracy for a little while, but yeah, we also, we want to keep a good relationship with all the neighbours. So hopefully it's something we can continue, really. That's really all we want to do.
Okay, thank you very much for that. No other point you want to make at the moment? You will have an opportunity at the end to sum up.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we can now ask the members of the subcommittee to question you for some clarification. First of all, one thing I'd like to ask, if I may, is the piped music. Are you anticipating having piped music outside?
No.
So
I think also when we spoke to environmental health, I think they have actually limited it so that if we want live like bands, basically 4 or 5 piece bands, I think we're only allowed 1 or 2 a year, I think, which is something they said they would like, so that we can't have loud music every weekend, and we had no qualms with that whatsoever because it's not our intention at all.
Okay.
It's basically so that if we want to have like a couple of one-off events during the year, we can have a live band outside. But obviously, we'd give our neighbours notice of that as well. So, but that is definitely not the intention.
Okay,
to have
thank you.
live music.
The other thing, when was the last time? Have you ever had police called to an incident at your premises?
Yes, we called them on the incident I referred to earlier, which happened in the first week or two when we opened on the 12th of April this year. We called the police ourselves.
Okay, I understand that you've been using temporary event notices up until now. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have for the tiki bar outside, but obviously because of the rain as well, we haven't been able to use it a lot of the time. So
it's not. I think we've got to be realistic here. The bar is only ever going to be used when it's nice weather. This is going to be quite limited. It's not something that's going to be open, every day we're open. It's only ever going to be open of a weekend if it's nice weather. And we've agreed to shut it at 10:30 anyway. And we've got obviously the security that are going to maintain the volumes out there whilst it is open.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. So I'm going to ask my fellow councillors to if there are any questions. Councillor Newport, you have your hand up. Thank you. You're on mute, Councillor Newport.
Sorry, I can't find the blue hand icon. Just a quick question. You say you close on Mondays and Tuesdays. Is that a continual thing? That's just something that always happens?
Yes, we've got no intention at the moment of changing that.
Okay. And also just a quick one, if I may, about the security staff. What hours and days do they work?
Yeah, so they work Friday and Saturdays.
Yeah.
From about 5:30, 6 o'clock till close, which is, well, they leave at 11:30. Obviously, the pub shuts at 11. So it's very rare that anyone's in here 11:10. It's normally empty.
And does that extend to bank holidays?
Well, the bank holidays so far have been Mondays where we're shut.
So, but going forward, say Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, Good Fridays.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the idea will be the security will be here until the bar is shut down, the tills are all shut down. So they will be here at any busy period. Like during the football, for example, I think there was a couple of Sunday games and Tuesday games. There's a Wednesday game. We will always have the security there when we know it's going to be a busy day. Wednesday and Thursdays clearly are quite quiet, as is a Sunday. So the idea is to have them here when it's going to be busy, and that will be the same going forward over Christmas, etc.
So if I may, the bank holidays that don't fall on a Monday, you're quite happy to have the security staff there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is that all, Councillor Newport?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. If the having security staff were to be made a condition of this licence, you would be happy with that?
No, not really. I feel it's something that we've gone above what most people would probably do, but I don't think it should be put compulsory on us.
I mean, a lot of the reason as well why we've got security is because we've got a lot of female staff here, and it feels a lot more comfortable for us as well to have some of the guys here sometimes as well. But I certainly don't think we're no nightclub. We're a restaurant, and I must admit a lot of our customers do find it a bit odd that we've got doormen in. But definitely, it's not something we need. It's not like we're some sort of club.
It's something we've chosen to give us peace of mind. So we know if we're at home, we know that there's going to be no trouble. The place is staffed. It's got security there. It means we can go home and not worry about the place. Yeah. But it's not something we'd want to have compulsory. I think that's something that we've gone above others to do. It'd
be very strange to have that as compulsory for a village pub.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Councillor Gooding, you have your hand up if you'd like to ask any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, apologies if I missed this, but how long have have Stanbridge Security been employed by you?
I'm not sure on the exact date, but I believe it would have been the end of April.
This year?
Yes.
Right, okay. Thanks. That was all. Cheers.
Anything else, Councillor Gooding?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Right, thank you very much. I'm now going to ask the interested parties to provide their submissions, if you can, please.
Sorry, Chair, did you want to just check if any of the other parties had any questions?
Oh, yeah, I do apologise. Yeah, do any other parties have any questions for the applicants? So no, I presume. Right, thank you for that, Chris. Right, if we could go back to the interested parties, please. You're on mute again, Tracy. Still on mute. No, I'm sorry, you're still on mute. We can't hear you.
Oh, is that it?
There you go.
Sorry. I'm sorry. So with Tyler and Jodie, we were delighted when they took the pub over, actually. And they have definitely turned it around, and the clientele are better. And I think they'll agree that we supported them wholeheartedly. We send people in there. We've had groups of us going in there. So we have supported them. In terms of us having to remove the natural hedge, the foliage that sort of goes along the other side of their fencing. Unfortunately, when they took the old fencing down, we had to spend, I think in total, about £700 getting all the foliage removed because it just collapsed. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's all been replanted.
So
now,
we've had to, so it's cost us probably over £1,000. We accept that it would have acted as a natural silencer, but it just was not, we could not maintain it that way, could we?
No.
Because it just all fell forward onto the driveway. I think what is regrettable is that Tyler and Jodie didn't come and talk to us, because we have in the past always enjoyed a good relationship with them. And listening to what they've told us now about their compromises with the Environmental Agency, so on and so forth, and what their plans are, it gives me some comfort. Dave and I haven't actually had a chance to speak about it, obviously, but what I think there must be seating for about 200, 150.
There's probably 15 plus tables in the garden, and they have been full up and fully booked in recent months. And so if you do your maths on that, you've got the equivalent of over 100 people sitting next to our boundary. And it's not during the week, it's just mainly weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, that the increase in the noise has been quite substantial from our side. And that is why we're objecting to the increase, in the bar outside and outside music, because we believe it will bring more people in.
And then what happens is the more people drink, we're realistic. We know we bought a house next door to a pub. That's, that is what it is. But what we find is that it may be different when the doormen are there, but the more people drink, the more the noise escalates. And it does. I mean, Dave has text Tyler or Jodie.
I've spoken, well, he'll confirm that, probably a month, 6 weeks ago. I had to send a text because the noise was so bad on a Sunday evening.
But sometimes we can't sit in our garden and hear ourselves talk to each other. It's very different. I know because we've been in there, and we look and we can see our house, and you can sort of understand why people don't appreciate that. It's a heavily residential area around the pub.
I mean, I say I go in there myself. I like the pub. I respect what they've done to the pub, and everything. But it is the noise that affects us.
It may help if the noise, before it escalates, because sometimes the language is appalling. And you can feel it building up throughout the afternoon. And sometimes that is in the week as well.
Yeah.
So the only reason you haven't seen me, Tyler and Jodie, is because I'm not allowed in on a Thursday because it's a man's night.
Really?
It is. But so just generally, we're already sort of, we already get a lot of light from there. There's the noise, the smell of the cooking. Is it the generator? Because
there's been an increase in the outside area. Obviously, more people are eating outside. I mean, it's not a horrible smell, but we do get food smells because we're 5-6 meters away from the fence along our boundary there. And because the kitchen is being used more and more, the extractor fan is being used more and more, obviously. So that's a bit of an increased noise for us as well.
Yeah, and I think just generally it's
generally the noise level over a weekend. That's our only concern, and that the conditions lifting and the new bar area will bring it. I know Tyler said it won't bring in more people, but our concern is that it does, and it will.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Is any other points you'd like to make at the moment?
No, just whether they naturally needed planning permission to build the bar.
That I can't answer. That's not anything that is anything to do with this committee, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think with your permission, though, we can ask Tyler and Jodie. They would know.
Well, at the moment,
we don't need planning permission.
No, normally it's that's nothing to do with this hearing at the moment. Thank you very much for that. May I ask at this point to ask any members of the committee to ask questions? Firstly, Councillor Newport, do you have any questions for? Nothing at all. Thank you. Councillor Gooding, do you have any questions?
Sorry, if you don't mind me asking, Tracy, how long have you actually lived where you are?
We've been here 7 years this month.
Fair enough. Fine. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Gooding? No, thank you. I'd like just to answer a couple of questions. Have you ever had need to call the police to any incidents at the public house?
No, we haven't. No, but what we've tried to do is deal with it directly with previous landlords. We accept they're trying to run a business. You know, we're business people ourselves. So,
and they've done a very good job.
But yeah, so in the past, when it was under different owners, and it was worse, I've got to admit that, but we've always tried to deal directly with the landlord rather than get police involved.
Okay. When you moved in there, it was an operating public house, I presume?
Well,
It was, yes.
It was. Just for clarity, I've looked at the pub. Are you looking at it from the road, looking at the pub? Are you on the right-hand side or the left-hand side?
We're on the left-hand side, separated by a driveway.
By a driveway, so you're not adjoining. You're detached, I suppose.
Our garden is approximately 6 meters away from their fence.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's most helpful. Thank you very much.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
When it was the anchor, when we first moved in, there was probably 5 or 6 tables outside. It wasn't used that much out as an outside eating or seating area.
Yeah, and they could only they had to install air conditioning so that if they wanted live music, it had to be indoors with the door shut.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Right, if any other interested parties have any questions they would like to ask, now is the time.
No, thank you.
No? Right, thank you very much. The two interested parties, you have 2 minutes now each if you wish to sum up on your points that you'd like to make.
Okay. So I think obviously we do respect Tracy and Dave's points. However, I feel their main concern is the fact that the pub is busy. I know Dave says he thinks the outside bar is going to bring more people. I mean, that's yet to be seen, and no one will really know. We don't feel it's necessarily going to attract more people. We just think it's going to give them a different route to actually get their drinks. But it seems to me like the problem is the fact of the noise and the general place being a slightly busier pub now. Obviously, this application is for an outside building and for music at the weekends. It's not, that's a lot of the things they bring up, like the smells in the kitchen, the noise, and that isn't really impacted by the outside bar. We don't feel. So I can't see that being I don't know how that's going to affect it and change it. We've got to be busy. It has to be busy. Yes, we've got more tables in the garden. Obviously, that was primarily led because of COVID. as we've got busier, you know, they are getting taken up. I know they said it's booked, the garden's booked out most weekends. We don't actually book our garden area out. That's for walk-ins only. And the last couple of weekends, obviously, when it's bad weather, it's probably 80% empty when it's not nice weather. It's only on the occasion when it's a nice day that actually the garden gets full up. And that normally empties out by about 8 to 9 o'clock in the garden itself, for people tend to move inside or into the undercover area. I know they said we could have spoke to them. Yeah, maybe we should have. I'll be honest with you, we didn't think it would impact them, so therefore didn't feel the need to speak to them. I mean, we as I say, Dave's in most Thursdays, we speak to them guys. They could have spoke to us if they had any problems. They saw it going up. I don't know, maybe we could have spoke to them, but as I say, we didn't feel that they'd have any objections or any interest in it really, because we don't feel it makes any difference to the problem that they're raising, which is the general noise. The bar outside, we don't feel makes any difference to that.
Okay.
We're both, I'd just like to add us also that we are both boys that have grown up in Wakering. We've been here 40 years ourselves. My brother Jody lives within 100 yards of the pub. So we're quite well known in the village, and we want to make sure that we keep the pub going in the right direction, which is to keep it busy but controlled. And we want to keep the food going, and we really want to make it an asset to the village rather than a late night drinking place, because obviously we could keep it open till 1 o'clock in the morning. We, being village, you know, people that have grown up in the village, just don't want that to be the case, and we'd rather them go up the other end of the village if they want a late night drink, and we'll keep, you know, the nicer people in our pub. But we just feel we need the help to do that, really.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Thank you for that.
No worries.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Mr. Strike, do you have a summing up that you'd like to make?
No, I say our only concerns was about the noise. That is our
music.
Normally we wouldn't be here today. I say we like the guys. What they've done is excellent, but we have been suffering a lot over the last few months with the massive increase in noise. And I say, if you can imagine, you know, you've got 100 people within 6 meters of you, all outside, all trying to drink in and all trying to do one over and speaking louder and louder and louder. And it does get out of hand.
Okay.
Music. I think the music will attract more customers.
It's got to, yeah.
I mean, what I know from when we've been in there, when Anita Carmichael was playing, I know it's indoors, but about 10 or 15 of my friends came, and they wouldn't have normally have been there. So I do think it will attract more customers.
Thank you. You obviously have a good relationship with the applicants. So whatever happens, I hope that will continue.
Oh, we hope so.
Yeah, we've got no problem. It's just
well, we have.
what we've stated. Our problem is what we've stated. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Licensing officer, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Owen, anything?
No, thank you, Chair. I think that's all good.
Okay. Any other comments? Right. Thank you very much for that. On conclusion, the subcommittee will now adjourn to consider the case and may request the presence of the legal advisor to provide legal advice. We will return. I've got here, we were in approximately how many minutes, and I'm not sure what we're going to do now. Perhaps, Sonia, can you advise, please?
I think if we allow about 40 minutes, Chairman,
Okay.
and I'm assuming that the licensing officer has got contact details for all parties. So if there's any variation on that, we'll liaise with her,
Okay.
Chairman.
Well, thank you all for attending. It's most interesting, most helpful. Thank you very much, and we'll let you know as soon as we know. Thank you.